The outsized abuse is meant to silence us, it's meant to intimidate us, and they hope that by doing this, we will feel ashamed, we will feel scared for ourselves, for our safety, for our family, and we will remove ourselves from the public conversation.
Gender digital hate, harassment, and abuse happens every day. How in the world does one survive as a woman, girl, or gender diverse person online? I'm Andrea Gunrad from the Canadian Women's Foundation.
The outsized abuse is meant
Welcome
to silence
All Right,
us, it's meant
Now
to
What?
intimidate
A
us.
podcast from the
and
Canadian Women's
they hope
Foundation.
that by doing
We put an
this,
intersectional
we will feel
feminist
ashamed,
lens on
we will
stories
feel
that make you
scared for
wonder,
ourselves,
why
for our
is this
safety,
still
for our
happening?
family, and we
We
will
explore
remove ourselves
systemic
from the
roots and
public
strategies for
conversation.
change that will move Gender us closer digital to the hate, goal of harassment,
gender
and
justice.
abuse happens every day.
The work of the Canadian Women's
How in the
Foundation
world
and
does
our
one
partners
survive as a
takes
woman,
place on traditional
girl,
First
or
Nations,
gender diverse
Métis,
person
and
online?
Inuit territories?
I'm
We are
Andrea
grateful
Gunrad
for the
from the Canadian
opportunity
Women's
to meet
Foundation.
and work on this land. However, we recognize that
Welcome
land
to All Right,
acknowledgements
Now
are
What?
not enough.
A podcast
We
from
need
the
to pursue
Canadian
truth,
Women's Foundation.
reconciliation,
We put an intersectional feminist
decolonization,
lens
and
on
stories
allyship
that make you
in
wonder,
an ongoing
why
effort
is
to
this
make
still
right
happening
with all our relations.
We explore systemic roots and strategies for change that will move us
Facebook,
closer to the goal
Twitch,
of gender
Discord,
justice.
Tinder, X,
The work of the
Instagram,
Canadian Women's Foundation
TikTok,
and
YouTube,
our partners
Reddit,
takes
LinkedIn,
place on traditional
Zoom.
First Nations,
Digital
Métis,
life is
and
real
Inuit
life,
territories.
and
We are
digital
grateful for
spaces
the
aren't safe
opportunity
for
to meet
everyone.
and work on this land.
Whether you're on
However,
social
we
media,
recognize that land
streaming
acknowledgements
platforms,
are not
dating,
enough.
messaging,
We
and
need to
meeting
pursue
apps,
truth,
or on game
reconciliation,
sites. If you're a woman,
decolonization,
girl,
and
or
allyship
two-spirit, trans,
in
or
an ongoing
non-binary
effort to
person,
make right
you're
with
at
all our
greater risk of
relations.
hate, harassment, and violence.
Facebook,
1 in 5 women
Twitch,
experience
Discord,
online harassment
Tinder,
in Canada.
X,
Instagram, young women,
TikTok,
racialized
YouTube,
women, and 2
Reddit,
LGBTQIA
LinkedIn,
plus people are amongst
digital
those
life
who face
is
real
higher
life.
risks.
And digital
Canada's
spaces
rising
rising
hate
hate for
crimes
everyone
is
in large part
due
whether
to
you're on
increased
social
hate
media,
in digital
streaming
spaces
platforms,
against women,
dating,
2
messaging, and meeting
LGBTQIA
apps,
plus
or
people,
on game sites,
and targeted
if you're a
ethnic
woman,
and religious
girl,
groups.
or two-spirit, trans,
Gender
or non-binary
digital hate,
person,
harassment,
you're
and
at greater
abuse
risk of
happens
hate,
every day.
harassment, and violence.
It's pervasive,
urgent,
1 in 5
and
women
growing.
experience
Online
You
harassment
deserve to be
in
safe
Canada.
and free from
Young
harm.
women, racialized women, and
Overcoming
2
months.
LGBTQIA
We're delving into this with
plus
leading
people are
experts
amongst
and
those
content
who face
creators,
higher risks.
releasing in-depth
Canada's
episodes
rising
every single
hate
week.
crimes is in
We'll
large
talk about
part
the problem
due to
and what
increased
we can
hate
do to
in
change
digital
it.
spaces against
We'll offer
women,
practical
to
tips to help you and your
LGBTQIA
digital
plus
life,
people, and we'll talk
and
about what it
targeted
means to
ethnic
take
and
back the
religious
tech
groups.
for all of us. Gender digital hate,
There are no
harassment,
easy
and
answers
abuse
or
happens
quick
every
fixes.
day. But one
It's
thing is
pervasive,
clear: urgent
power,
and
growing.
safety. Support
You deserve
and
to be
rights
safe
to
and
thrive
free from
today
harm.
and tomorrow. Overcoming
Won't be
months.
our reality
We're delving into this
until
with
we're
leading
safe
experts
everywhere,
and content creators,
including digital
releasing
spaces.
in-depth episodes
Today I'm
every
with
single
Nina
week.
Jankowicz.
We'll talk
author
about the
and
problem
internationally
and what we can do to
recognized
change it.
expert on
We'll offer
disinformation
practical
and
tips to help you
democratization.
in your digital life.
She's
And we'll
vice
talk about
president
what it
at the
means to
Center
take
for
back the
Information
tech for
Resilience.
all of us, and has advised governments,
no easy
international
answers or
organizations,
quick
and tech
fixes.
companies. But one thing is
She
clear:
led the
US Disinformation
Power,
Governance
safety,
Board,
support,
and has had
and
fellowships
rights
at
to
the Wilson
thrive
Center,
today and
researching
tomorrow.
the effects of
Won't be our
disinformation on
reality
women
until
and
we're
freedom
safe
of expression
everywhere,
around
including
the world.
digital spaces.
A note about content.
Today I'm with
This
Nina
episode
Jankowicz,
addresses
author
gender-based
and
violence.
internationally
I
recognized
am
expert
by
on
trade
disinformation
a
and
disinformation
democratization.
researcher and
She's
author.
vice president at the
Something
Center
important
for
about me is
Information
that I have
Resilience
been the
and has
subject
advised
of
governments,
a
international
national,
organizations, and tech
in some
companies.
cases even international.
She led the
online
US
hate
Disinformation
campaign because of a
Governance
role
Board
that I held
and has had
in
fellowships
the
at the
Biden
Wilson
administration
Center,
for a very short
researching the
time,
effects of
combating
disinformation on
disinformation.
women and
On a
freedom
more
of
positive note,
expression
I've published
around
2
the
books.
world.
One on
A note about
Russian
content.
disinformation
This
called How to
episode
Lose the
addresses
Information
gender-based
War,
violence.
and the second one
I
on
am
being a woman
by
online,
trade
which is
a
called How to Be a Woman
disinformation
Online, and takes
researcher
readers through
and
kind of
author.
a play-by-play
Something important
in
about
how
me is
to
that I have been
be
the
secure
subject
and safe
of
online, but also how to
a
deal with
national
some of the
and
things that we
in some cases
encounter
even
on
international
women, as women
online
online
hate
that
campaign
are
because of a
unique
role
to
that
our
I
experience
held
that I
in the
can
Biden
confirm
administration
my husband
and
for a very
colleagues
short
don't deal
time
with.
combating disinformation.
Even though I've been
on a more
you
positive
know,
note,
a
I've published
professional
2
in Washington,
books.
D.C.
One
for
on
the
Russian
past
disinformation
over 10
called
years
How to
now,
Lose
I'm
the
sad to
Information
admit.
War,
I still
and the second one
I still
on
like
being a woman
to
online,
do
which
fun
is called
things.
How to Be a
Though I
Woman
recently
Online. And
became a
takes
mom.
readers through kind of
One of
a
my favorite
play-by-play
pastimes
in my spare time is
be
participating
secure and
in
safe
musical
online,
theater.
but also how to deal
This
with
is something
some
my
of the
haters online love
things
to
that
make
we
fun of, but
encounter
I am
women
not
as women
I'm
online
not
that are
easily really dissuaded from minority hobbies. So keep my husband and male colleagues don't deal with.
even
Your
though
book,
I've
How to Be a
been,
Woman
a
Online, is
professional
great,
in Washington,
and it's a
DC
practical
for
read.
the past
How
over
did
10
it even
years now, I'm
start?
sad to admit.
The book,
I
How
still-
to Be a Woman Online,
I still
actually
like
stemmed
to
from some
do
broader
fun things,
research
and
that
though
I
I
did
recently
at the
became a
Wilson
mom,
Center with a group
one of my
women
favorite
who
pastimes
were
in my
interested
spare
in
time is
unpacking
participating in musical theater.
gendered
This is something my
disinformation and
haters
online
online
abuse
love to
in
make
the
fun of,
context
but
of
I
the
am
2020
not.
US
I
election.
am not
There has been
easily
a lot of work
dissuaded
done
from my nerdy
looking at
hobbies, so
specific
keep it coming,
platforms
haters,
or
keep it
specific
coming.
individual women
Your
versus
book, How to Be
men,
a
but there
Woman
hadn't been a
Online,
lot
is great,
that was
and it's a practical read.
longitudinal in terms
How did it
of
even
more
start?
than just a specific
The book,
couple
How to
days
Be a Woman Online,
actually
and also
stemmed from some
cross-platform.
broader
And so we
research
did
that
this
I
pilot
did at
study
the Wilson
comparing
Center with a
13
group of
women
who
were
were
mostly
interested
the
in
United States, but we did
unpacking
include 3 women from
gendered
Canada, the UK,
disinformation and
and
online
New
abuse
Zealand
in the context of the
various
2020 US election.
political parties.
There had
age
been a lot of
groups,
work
racial
done
and
looking at
gender
specific
diverse
platforms.
What we
or
found
specific
was really
individual
staggering.
women
Over
versus men, but there hadn't been a lot that was
of gender
longitudinal in
abuse or
terms of
disinformation
more than just a specific
across a
couple
2
days
month
online,
period, targeted
and
at
also
these 13
cross-platform.
candidates.
And so we did
Short
this
period
pilot
of time,
study
wide
comparing
look at
13
platforms
women
and a
in
very small amount
mostly
of
the United
subjects.
States, but we did include
And
3 women
I think it
from
confirmed
Canada,
what we
the
all
UK,
knew,
and
but
New
we
Zealand,
didn't quite
across
know
various,
how visceral
political
and
parties,
how bad
age groups,
the problem
racial,
was until we had
and
to
gender
look
diverse
individually
folks.
at what we found
each
was
of
really
these pieces of
staggering.
abuse to kind of
Over
categorize them.
330,000
We found
pieces
also that
of gender
so much of
abuse or disinformation,
the abuse that we see
across a
online
2-month period
goes undetected,
targeted at these 13
and a lot of the stuff that we
short period of
found,
time, wide
we wouldn't have
look at
found
platforms,
if we hadn't done
and a
such
very
in-depth
small
research
amount of
looking at kind of the
subjects.
conversation around
And
these
I think it
individual
confirmed
candidates
what
for
we all
office
knew,
and
but we
understanding
didn't quite
the
know
nicknames
how
that abusers
visceral
gave
and
them,
how
some of
bad
which
the
would be
problem
kind of
was until we
undetectable if you weren't
at
searching for them
at each of these
so this
pieces
is where
of
kind of my
abuse to
skepticism
kind of
about
categorize
artificial
them.
intelligence
We
comes
found
in, right?
also that
a lot of people are saying,
oh,
the
AI can solve
abuse that we
abuse, it
see
can find it so
online
easily,
goes
it can
undetected.
categorize it,
and a lot of the stuff that we found
and
we wouldn't
take
have
out
found
human
if we
content
hadn't done
moderation,
such in-depth
automation.
research
Without
looking at kind of the
humans
conversation
looking at this
around
stuff,
these
we would have
individual
missed
candidates
probably,
for
I don't
office.
know, I can't
and
give you a specific
understanding
number,
the
but
nicknames
a
that
good
abusers
majority
gave
of
them,
it.
some of
And so
which
we called
would
this
be
malign
kind of
creativity
undetectable.
a
if
lot
you
of
weren't searching
the
for them.
abusers
So this is
were
where
very
kind of my skepticism
purposely
about
using
artificial intelligence
what we call
comes in,
mimetic
right?
language, or
a lot of
even
people are saying,
images,
oh,
in order to
AI
avoid
can solve
detection.
abuse, it can find
For
it so
instance,
easily,
using
it can
images where they could
categorize
use
it, it
text,
can,
so that the
penalize
classifiers
abusers,
that were looking through
and
content
take
online
out human
didn't
content
find
moderation
what
out
they
of
were
the equation.
posting about.
Without humans
Instead of
looking
calling
at
someone
this stuff, we would have
Jews,
missed
for instance,
probably,
they
I
could
don't
write
know,
Jews,
I can't give you a specific
J-U-I,
number, but
a good
and
majority
the AI
of it.
wouldn't find
And so we
it.
called this
is the type
malign
of thing that women are
creativity
dealing with
because
so much.
a lot
so
of
we'll
the
report something,
abusers
and
were
it goes
very
completely
purposely
undealt
using
with
what we call
because
mimetic
the,
language,
generally the
or
computer
even
on the other
images
side doesn't
in order to
understand
avoid
the
detection.
implication. And sometimes
For
the people
instance,
don't even
using
understand
images
the
where they could use
implication.
text, so
the
that
problem
the
is
classifiers
really, really
that were
much
looking
worse
through
than I
content
think
online
many people
didn't
realize that
find
it
what
is
they were posting about.
we are
Instead
missing
of
so
calling
much
someone
of the
Jews,
conversation
for
and the
instance,
research
they
that
could
gets
write
done when we
juice,
just put
J-U-I,
search term for whore or rape
and the
into
AI
the
wouldn't find
search
it.
box.
This is the
Let
type
me
of thing
ask
that
you
women
a
are
basic
dealing with
question.
so much.
Why
So
does
we'll
hate and
report
harassment
something,
and abuse
it goes
happen
completely
online?
undealt
What's the
with
goal of it?
because
In my experience,
both my personal experience and my understand the implication, and sometimes the people don't even understand the implication.
But also
The problem
looking at
is
the
really,
quantitative
really
data.
much worse than
I think that
many
people
realize that it
really
is
like
because
to
we are
try to
missing so
push
much
women
of
out
the
of public
conversation
life.
and the research that
The
gets done when we just
outsized
put
abuse is
search
meant
term
to
for
silence
whore
us, it's
or
meant to
rape
intimidate
into
us,
the
and
search box.
they hope
Let me ask
that
you
by
a
doing
basic
this,
question.
we will feel
Why
ashamed,
does
we
hate
will
and
feel
harassment
scared for
and
ourselves,
abuse
for our
happen
safety, for our
online?
family.
What's the
And
goal
we
of
will
it?
remove ourselves from the public
In my
conversation.
experience, both my personal
when we
experience
looked
and my
across
research
these many different
experience,
platforms, 6
talking
different
to
platforms
women
during the malign
through focus
creativity
groups,
study,
but also
we found
looking at the
the
quantitative
large
data.
majority of
I
the
think that
abuse
people
was on really
Twitter
and the
to
reason that it was
try
on
to push
Twitter
women
is
out
not
of
just
public
because
life.
it's a popular platform.
The
It is
outsized
because
abuse is
we
meant to
hypothesize,
silence us.
it's meant to
People like to
intimidate
yell
us.
us
at
and
their targets.
They hope
not just
that by
about
doing
their
this, we
targets.
will feel ashamed.
If they're on
we
a
will
platform
feel scared
like
for
Parler
ourselves, for our
or
safety, for our
Truth
family,
Social, let's say,
and we will remove
it doesn't
ourselves
have
from
the
public
impact that it
conversation.
has on the
Because when we
individual, the
these
woman
many
at the
different
receiving
platforms,
end
6
seeing
different
it.
platforms
It's not as
during the
fun to
Malign
talk about
Creativity
somebody
Study,
behind their back.
we
It's fun
found
to shout
the
directly at
large
them.
majority
And I
of
think
the
we're going to
abuse
see that shifting
was on
as
Twitter.
people
And the reason that it was on
coagulate
Twitter
around
is not
one
just because it's a
platform
popular
in the
platform,
post-Twitter Twitter
It is
era.
because
people went as far during
people
the
like
abuse
to yell
campaign
at
against me or
their
during the height of it, I would say,
not
it's
just
still going
about
on.
their targets.
People went as far as to
if they're on a
comment
platform
on
like Parler
or
or Truth
cat
Social,
that is long
let's say,
dead,
it doesn't have the
that
impact
I had
that
posted
it has
on
Facebook
the individual,
the woman at the receiving end seeing it.
They were in a
it's not as
Facebook
fun to
group or on
talk
a
about
Facebook
somebody
page
behind
and
their
they
back.
saw
It's fun to shout
my name on
directly at
Facebook
them.
and saw
and
this
I think we're going to see
and
that
commented on
shifting
pictures of
as
this dead
you know,
cat so
people
that they could
coagulate
get to me.
around one
Similarly,
platform.
they'd send emails to me,
era.
to my various
People went as far
during the abuse campaign or against me or during the height of it. I would say it's still
Syracuse
on.
University,
People
where I'm
went
an
as far as to comment on pictures of
the
idea
that
again
is long
is
dead
to intimidate us.
that I had posted
it's
on
really
Facebook
shocking
in
to me,
a public
but I think
kind
the
of
internet
photography
does facilitate that.
They were in a Facebook
because
group
these
or on a
folks
Facebook page
almost
and they
certainly
saw
would not have
searched
the
for my
courage
name
to
on
say something
Facebook
like
and
that
saw
to your
this
face if
and
it had
commented on
societal
pictures of this
and
dead
social
cat so that they could
repercussions
get
for
to
them.
me.
Your book
Similarly,
includes a
they'd
vivid
send emails to
scenario
me
that talks about how we tend to downplay abuse in digital spaces.
Or at Syracuse,
Why don't we take it seriously?
Syracuse University,
This
where
is
I'm an
something I
adjunct
think
professor,
about a lot, and
all
there
sorts of
is
things.
a broad-based,
And the idea,
I would say,
again,
minimization
is to
of the
intimidate us.
experience of women
It's
online.
really shocking.
It can't
to me,
possibly
but I think
have
the
an
internet
effect
does
on women
facilitate
beyond
that,
when
because
they
these
shut
folks
down that social
almost
media
certainly would
platform
not
or
have
walk
the
away from
courage
their
to say
device,
something
something
like
like
that
that to your face if
and
it
that
has
really
societal
discounts
and social repercussions.
women's role in society.
Your book
but
includes a vivid scenario
the
that talks about how we
psychological
tend to
experiences
downplay
that
abuse in digital
happen on the
spaces.
internet. And
Why don't we
anybody
take
who
it
has,
seriously?
This
is something I think about a lot, and there is a broad-based, I would say,
that can have a very visceral reaction on your psyche, on your physical
it
and
can't
emotional
possibly
well-being.
have an effect
And now
on women
imagine
beyond
if you're being
when they
sent
shut down that
death
social
and
media
rape
platform
threats,
or
or
walk
even
away
just
from their
visceral
device or
kind of
computer.
vitriolic harassment.
And that
from
really discounts
hundreds or thousands of
women's
tens or
role in
thousands of
society,
people
but
over
B,
a course of a short
the
period
psychological
of time. It has
experiences
absolutely
that
an effect on
happen
the
on
way
the
that you
internet.
move
And
about
anybody
in the
who
world,
has,
particularly if
seen a
that
disturbing
harassment
video
or
online,
threats
even if it
are
has nothing
coupled
to
with
do with you,
doxing,
should
when your
understand that
personal
that can have a
information
very
is
visceral
released.
reaction
And that is
on your
something that's
psyche,
happened to
on
me.
your physical
I've also
and
had the
emotional
unfortunate
well-being.
experience
And now
of
imagine
being
if you're being
recognized
sent
in public by people
death and rape
who,
threats, or even just
I don't want to say
visceral
wish
kind
me
of
harm, but
vitriolic
certainly people who
harassment
weren't
from
fans of me, who
hundreds
then
or thousands
posted my
of
real-time location on their
over
Twitter
a course
profiles.
of a
One of the
short
guys
period
had
of
tens of
time.
thousands
It
of
has
followers,
absolutely
and
an
he posted a
effect
picture of
on
me. The way that you move
I think
about
people
in the
don't
world,
realize
particularly
that
if that,
again,
especially in the
threats
post-pandemic
are
era,
coupled
when we
with
rely on
doxing,
so
when
much
your personal information is released
for the
and that
internet.
is something that's
Our
happened
social
to me.
connection.
I've also had
our
the unfortunate
careers,
experience
that it
of
is just
being
absurd
recognized
to say to
in
people,
public by people
to women
who,
in particular.
I don't want to say wish
you
me
can't
harm,
use
but
the
certainly
internet.
people who
Like,
weren't
that's what you're
fans
asking
of
of
us
who then
when you say
posted
don't
my
feed the
real-time
trolls. Okay, let me
location
just
on their Twitter
shut down
profiles. One
all
of
of
the
my
guys had
social
tens of
media
thousands of
accounts,
followers and
completely
posted a
remove
picture of
myself
me.
from the conversation.
I think
whether
people
that's
don't
a public
realize
conversation
that,
or whether
that,
I'm just somebody
again,
trying to live my life
especially
in the
connect
post-pandemic
friends
era when
online.
we rely on so much.
You're asking us to remove ourselves
for
from
the
that
internet,
key part
our
of
social
public
connection,
life,
our careers,
to not
but it is
use
just
the
absurd to say to people
that make our
to
lives
women
easier
in particular
on the internet because
that
of
you
the
can't use
potential
the internet.
harm that
Like
it
that's
does.
what you're asking
Essentially,
of us
what it
when
boils
you say
down
don't
to
feed
is
the trolls.
stay
Okay,
at
let
home
me
and
just
raise your kids,
shut down
right? Because
all
if
of my
you're not
social media
engaging in the
accounts,
public
completely
conversation, if you're
remove
not
myself from
connecting
the
with
conversation,
people,
whether
then
that's
what are
a
you
public
doing?
conversation
And
or
that's
whether I'm
really
just
scary
somebody
to
trying to
me.
live my life
Our
and connect with my family and
policymakers
friends online
Also discount that.
You're asking
they
us to
have
remove
not
ourselves
yet
from that
bridged
key
the
part of
gap
public life
between what we
to
see
not
online
use the
and kind of the
affordances
harms
that make our
caused
lives
and
easier
the
on the
laws that we
internet
have
because of the
for
potential
things like
harm that
stalking,
it does.
other types of
Essentially,
abuse.
what it boils down
I've
to
brought
is stay at home
cases
and raise your
opened
kids, right?
protective
Because if
orders
you're not
against people
engaging in
who've
the
harmed
public
me
conversation
online,
if you're not
and I'm using
connecting with
statutes that
people,
are
then what are you
related
doing?
to people
And that's
who
really
have
scary
been in
to me.
domestic violence
Our
situations.
policymakers
Also discount
and
that.
I'm lucky that I
They
have
not
judges who
yet
can
bridge
the
the gap,
see that
between
connection, but that's
what
not
we
always the
see
case. Just
online
earlier today, I was talking
and
to a
kind of the
researcher in
harms
India
caused
who,
and
through an
the
organization
laws
called
that
IT
we
for
have
Change,
for things
working
like
on
stalking,
a
other types of
judicial
abuse.
toolkit
I've
so
brought
that they can
cases
help
and
judges in
opened
India
protective orders
interpret
against
the legal
people who have
code
harmed
there
me
through a feminist online, and I'm using statutes that are related to people. We need more of that in the United States, domestic violence, and probably in Canada too. And I'm lucky that I have judges who can, see that connection, but that's not always the case. Just earlier today, I was talking to a researcher in India who, through an organization called IT for Change, working on a
in the research you've done in this area, what are hidden issues that really stand out to you most?
Interpret the legal code women of intersectional identities. They've also done training with law enforcement officers. We need more of that in the United States, ethnically diverse, and probably in Canada too. Sexually diverse. We're just really lagging behind experience in our understanding of the impact.
Myself, as a white woman, I've experienced some pretty terrible stuff. But if I had been a woman of color or a queer woman, I would have gotten
in the research you've done in this area. What are hidden issues that really stand out to you most?
They skip over all the quote-unquote niceties of abuse and they go straight for the violent stuff. They go straight to doxing, racially diverse, ethnically diverse, religiously diverse, right behind you. Sexually diverse. All of us have made it. None of us have made it. And I think it's really important to give voice myself to those as a white woman and the fact that I've experienced some pretty terrible stuff. But if I had been a woman of color or a queer woman,
so that's the first thing. The second thing that I do think is
way
shocking and surprising
is how little black women in the United States
among
they skip over all the quote-unquote niceties of abuse and they go straight for the violent stuff. They go straight to doxing and targeting people's families.
It is.
You've got a banner right behind you that says until all of us made it, none of us have made it.
They don't
and
want
I think
to
it's really
more
to
make it a safe place
to those
for
experiences and the fact that we
users.
often overlook.
As a result of this inaction from tech companies, we have a severe gender disparity on
so that's the
first
thing.
The second thing
women
that I do
don't
think is
use
pretty
the
shocking
internet
and
as much as
surprising
men,
is how
or
little
to the
political
same extent.
will
So
there
on
is
Twitter,
among
this is an old statistic
now,
but
social
men
media
got
retweeted twice as often
as women
to stop
on Reddit, which is the homepage, the front page of the internet.
Disconcerting.
75% of users
they don't
want to do more to
and
make
there's
it
a reason
for
that.
It's because there's some of the most disgusting, misogynistic
as a result of this
diatribes I've ever seen on Reddit.
Severe
and
gender
what that means
disparity
again is that women are just removing
internet.
Themselves from the
women
conversation.
don't
they are
use
self-selecting
the internet
as much as men, or to the same extent.
Your book
so
shares some
Twitter,
practical tips on what we can personally do to protect ourselves and each other in hostile digital spaces.
On Reddit,
can you share some top tips with us now?
Homepage, the front page of the internet.
The most important thing 75%
of users are men. I, in some ways,
and there's a reason for
that.
It's
the first
there's some of the most
disgusting, misogynistic,
it's just talking about
diatribes I've ever seen on Reddit.
Like
but
and
having
what that
good
means
passwords,
again is
having
that women
two-factor
are just removing
authentication
themselves from
on
the
your
conversation.
Accounts.
They are
and thinking about how you want to remove your
book shares some practical tips on what we can personally do to protect ourselves and each other in hostile digital spaces. Can you share some top tips with us now?
The first and most important thing is to think about how you secure your personal data might be present on.
In some ways, regret that it's the first practical chapter of my book because it's boring. It's just talking about how to change your privacy settings and things like that. So it's a thing that we all
having good passwords, having
two-factor authentication on your account, and thinking about how you want to remove making sure that they're not from the internet and there are various services that you can subscribe to that do this for you. You can also do it on your own off of the internet, and it will make sure that it is more difficult to dox you. Not impossible, unfortunately, because of public records. I find it very ironic that ad transparency in the West, like this, which are more prevalent in the U.S. than they are in Canada, even affect Europeans using it against us. But so it's a thing that'll make it more difficult for people. That is the sort of stuff that will keep you physically. The other stuff I think that's really important is understanding making sure that they're not impersonating the platforms that you are choosing to have an account on. Information recently, anything you don't want public off of the internet, and it will make sure that it is more difficult to dox you. In a long, not impossible, unfortunate way, a local blog accidentally doxed her. All our transparency in the West, a sordid tale, but they kind of refused to take it down and didn't understand the implications. That'll make it more difficult for people to dox you and put you and your family at risk. And so I had to walk her through, like, how do we report understanding the policies. She wasn't aware of the reporting kind of choosing to have an account. And so one of the things that I advocate for in my book is for everybody to understand again, what are the things that don't fly long and unfortunate way? How do you know if it crosses a line? And then what do you do when that line is crossed? A sordid tale. I'm shocked, but they kind of refused to take it down. And so many of the women that I speak to, having that variety on the internet, don't know. And so I had to walk her through, like, how do we report? Take the time to do it. She wasn't aware of the reporting lack of political will that we spoke about. One of the things that I advocate they know that it's not going to go anywhere is for everybody to understand again. But it does send things that don't fly on a platform that whether intentional or not, how do you know this is an account that is a line, and then what do you do when that line is crossed? What to look for in the future. I'm shocked, that they can crack down on the people who are using that so many of the women that I speak to get around the rules, a variety of different fields. Don't know how to report stuff online, or don't very long. So there are ways that you can do that, and that might be again because of the lack of political will that we spoke about. They know that it's not going to go anywhere, and that's not just when it's happening to you, but it does send an important happening to people that you see as well. Whether intentional or not, this is an account that is not the rules and gives them data, but it's about what to look for in the future so that they can crack down on the people who are using that malign creativity and trying to get around the rules that we talked about before. Threads on mass. In most cases, people were talking about, not so there are ways reblogging that, retweeting, have other people do a better word, the content. It's something that I think is the bad actors who were trying to get on threads. They were like, let's not do that here. Let's not amplify that. It's about block them immediately. That's going to give important information. This one is a bit more proactive. It was just music to my ears, not just to see that people finally were understanding how the oxygen environmentation works on the internet. And if you want to see more threads when people diverse women on mass sharing content online, people were talking about, not share their reblogging or tell them how much it means to you. And if you see the baddies doing horrible stuff, actors who were trying to get on threads, they were like, let's not do that here, don't engage with them. All of that block them immediately. That's going to give important information to threads. It was just music to my ears to see that people finally were understanding. And then I think just calling out bad behavior when we see it, and sometimes, if you want to see done in a way that incentivizes further abuse, and I'm sharing content online. So what I like to do, and I talk about this in the book, share their content, is tell them how much it means to you. And if you see the baddies doing horrible stuff, so I tend to actively take a screenshot them. I will block them, don't engage with them. All of that sounds kind of really out using the drawing tool, their avatar and their username, the sorts of things. And then I make fun of them, which is kind of cathartic for me, but it doesn't give them any amplification. And sometimes it shames them and points out how ridiculous their behavior is, and I'm not a big fan of that. So what I like to do, and I talk about this in the book, we're looking through this stuff and saying, shame people, but not written it in a way that amplifies them further. So I tend to take a screenshot. I will, and it was like an emotional or if I'm piece on about, this being that I spent 11 years with, avatar and their username, and then I make fun of them, which is kind of cathartic for me, but it doesn't give them any amplification. You are embarrassing. It shames them, and I thought points out how ridiculous their behavior is, and also am I the embarrassing one? You're the one that's for other women who are posted about their dead dog. I guess you're really not a dog person, right? I had written that sort of thing. I think my dog really flipped the script on like, I'm not like an emotional piece about this being that I spent 11 years with, 11 really important years, and I got so much positive feedback from it.
Let me ask you this: what needs to change
on
a systems level, decision making, and policy and practice?
And I thought that was really interesting. It was kind of am I the embarrassing one? You're the one that's commenting on somebody's post about their dead dog. I guess you're really not a dog person, right? That sort of thing, I think. But what I do think just really flip the script on like I'm not. We have our federal commissions. I'm not intimidated by elections. I'm not going to give you what you want. I'm not going to take the bait, but I am going to call you out for your bad behavior. That acts as a clearinghouse.
Let me ask you this: what needs to change on a systems level, decision making and policy and practice?
That are being made. One of the things that I think needs to happen is better oversight of vetting organizations. And I'm not just talking about there needs to be a government agency data so that they can telling them what people can and can't post. I don't think some of the decisions that are being made by platforms is some sort of we have our federal commissions here. The way that we're operating is entirely based on whistleblowers, internet commission, journalists, and researchers who are doing things that aren't always clearinghouse for in line with standard data practices, algorithmic decisions that are being made, reviews, content moderation decisions, and we're operating with a vetting organization small amount of data. Decide if researchers ways into the platforms are slowly being closed off, and that allows us to public some of the decisions that are being made by platforms or the effects that they're having. It's an indirect effect, right? But the way that we get information about how those decisions are being made online, the broader picture we can have, and the more accurate aren't always about in line how that stuff affects standard data practices or the terms of service of the lawmakers. I try to have hard conversations whenever I'm in the room with a small amount of data, or when I'm writing ways into the platforms are slowly being closed off, and that allows us to pressure them much power. And you can have a bunch of working groups groups. It's not just indirect effect, right? But the more that we get information about how those decisions are being made online, the broader picture we can have, and the more accurate. I wish it didn't have to be something that I'm doing, how that stuff it is something that I think can have a I absolutely think we need to pressure lawmakers. I try to have hard
So help us bring this episode home. What takeaway do you want us to leave with?
I think the other thing that is important to know really holding them to online abuse and the realities of being a woman online. And you can have a bunch of working groups. It's not just lawmakers, but policymakers at other levels as well. And it's not until someone else that we just need to keep speaking truth to power recognizes them. I wish it didn't have to be something that I'm doing, that is kind of screwed up, and I'm not going to stand for it. I think it's important to talk about this stuff when it's happening. It's important.
So help us bring this episode home. If you have what takeaway do you want us to leave with?
In particular, I think the other thing that is important to know about online abuse to law and the realities of being a woman that as well. And let me tell you, it is. We tend to discount our experiences. It is not again something I would wish on my worst enemy. I've been going back and forth with my stalker on a protective order for the majority of this year. Yeah, you know what? I view that as also, and I'm not going to stand for it. I think it's important to talk about this stuff when it's happening. Officer that I encounter, report it in filing. If you have the resources to is going to learn a little bit about what it's like to be a woman on the internet, doxing, stalking, etc. to law enforcement, it's important to do that as well. And let me tell you, it is. So I encourage folks to talk about stuff. It is not again something I would wish on my worst enemy. I have been going back. Our foremothers, if I may, started talking about the. I view that as also in its own way, in particular, sexual harassment that was just because this is not officer that I encounter in filing that, every judge that I encounter is going to learn a little bit about what men are men, be men in our lives, don't have to deal with the same thing. And so we shouldn't stand for it. So I encourage folks to talk about stuff, to report it up.
Check out How to Be a Woman Online, Surviving Abuse and Harassment and How to Fight Back by Nina Jankowicz. Available in book and audio format. Get the facts on gender digital hate, harassment, and abuse by visiting our fact page on CanadianWomen.org. While you're there, read about our new Feminist Creator Prize to uplift feminist digital creators advocating for gender justice, safety, and so we shouldn't stand for it. Did this episode help you? Did you learn anything new? Check out How to Be a Woman Online. We want to know. Surviving abuse and harassment and how to fight back to fill out our by Nina Jankowicz survey. Available in book and audio prize pack. Get the facts on gender podcast episodes, harassment, and abuse by visiting our fact page on CanadianWomen.org. Please listen, while you're there, read about our new Feminist Creator Prize to uplift feminist digital creators advocating for gender justice, safety, and freedom from harm. People like you will make the goal of gender justice a reality. Did you learn anything new? Visit CanadianWomen.org to give today. And thank you. Please visit this episode's show notes to fill out our brief listener